Hello everyone, and welcome to another Technique Tuesday. Today I'm going to show you a little trick that uses a makeup sponge to paint that gives you, and actually it can be used for a lot of different things. I'm going to show you 3 or 4 of them today by getting paint out. So what we're going to do is it's just a standard makeup sponge, and I've cut mine into 4 little chunks just because. Actually, I'm going to cut this one into 2 because I'm going to keep one on big. Usually I cut them into 4 because of you don't need very much space on the sponge to work with, but I'm going to be doing a large piece down here, so I kind of want a larger piece to use, so I'm going to use this one for that. So then I put the pink out. So this is used for a lot of different things, and I'm going to show you on the pink. We're going to show you how we can use the sponge, and what you're going to do is you're going to load paint on your sponge, and then you're basically going to offload as much as you can, so you have very little paint on there, and then you are going to very lightly tap your sponge where you are trying to paint. And as you can see, hopefully you can see, this is letting that engraving that's on there that shows the gingerbread kisses and peppermint wishes show through. Now, it doesn't put a very thick layer of paint on it. And you may think, oh, but it doesn't look good around it. That's okay, because we're going to come back and do another layer after this one dries, which is only, honestly, a few seconds. So that's one place where you want to use a sponge, is where you want the engraving to show through. You know, this engraving is just for placement of the little embellishment here, so it doesn't matter how much it shows through, but this we want to show through because we're not going to be augmenting it at all. It's also used on a variety of things where you want, again, engraving to show through. See, I'm being really light here and just working my way down it, and there's engraving around the outside edges, and there's engraved eggs on this that I want to show through. And the lighter you are with your tapping, the better that is, so that you don't have, you get to see that through, but you also don't get a lot of an edge. I'll pick this up right now. Stick down good. This one's a harder one to tell because of these little notches, but you see I just barely have an edge that drops down, and it's a really even edge, so it doesn't need to be touched up. And that's important on the next thing you might use it for, and that is lettering, small lettering on pieces, especially when you're using light colors. I'm using a darker color today. I'm using a dark blue. But that's another time when you might want to use the sponge technique, because, and I'm using this large sponge not because the letters need it, but because the second thing I'm going to do with it needs it. Get it as loaded off as I can, and you know, like I showed you with the pink, you're not going to be able to see it with this, but it keeps that from being along your edges much, so you don't have to touch up those edges, and it keeps it from getting down in those little holes. You know, like your E's have small holes in them, keeps it from getting down in those holes, so that you don't end up with globs of paint down in there that looks poor. And then last but not least, when you've got pieces, and they don't have to be this kind of a large piece, this just happens to be what I had cut. I just pulled something that I was working on that have engraved or have cutouts in them, and you don't want to get globs of paint in those cutouts. Again, if you use the sponge technique, you won't. You'll just get the paint on the top surface, not down in those, and it won't end up clogging into those little corners like it does with a brush. And while it sometimes takes, this color doesn't look like it's going to take 2 coats. We'll see when it actually dries. It sometimes takes 2 coats because you're doing it a lot lighter, because you don't have any touch-up to do afterwards. It's well worth the time that it takes to do that extra coat. So that is today's Technique Tuesday tip, so that you can keep your lines clean, both within sections like this and over wording like this. And like I said, you're going to let it dry, and it doesn't take very long to dry, and you just come back with another layer. And again, I've still got too much on my thing. You just dot right back over the top, and it doesn't get down in there any more the second time across than it did the first time. So you've got a nice sharp writing on there that you can't, so that you don't have to worry about trying to clean that out with a knife. It's also good for shiplap or brick pattern on a piece. It'll make that shiplap or brick, the lining for that shiplap or brick, show up. So there you go. That's your tip for this week. Hope we see you back next week.